Hello.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me on your show.
Oh, no problem. So our first question
Speak louder.
is, what was the hottest song in your generation?
Well, my generation spans 20 years. So some of the older millennials will probably say like Toxic by Britney Spears.
Oh,
That was a good one. With some of the kids who are a little older than me. But my age, I would probably say like TikTok by Kesha. That was a good anthem for my generation.
Check my
Chicken my style.
style. What was the most important lesson you've learned from your parents?
The most important lesson that I've learned from my parents. That's a good question. I think I've learned that it's okay to make mistakes and that you don't have to have everything figured out in your 20s. That you can, even if it takes you into your 40s or even into your 50s, you can still get it figured out.
That's really sweet, I guess. Who did you learn the most from growing up, and why?
I think I learned the most from my friends. We were all growing up together and having similar problems, and we didn't have a parent-child relationship. We had a friend-friend relationship. So nobody was in control. It was just us being friends. I think I learned a lot from my friend Alaska, who's kind of teaching me those same lessons about making mistakes and moving on.
Yeah. So you always gotta have good lessons. What was your favorite childhood memory and why?
Not to be sappy in front of your friends, my favorite childhood memory is when you were born.
Aw.
I always wanted a little sister.
Oh, that's great.
And then you were born, so that was really fun.
So you always wanted a little sister.
I always wanted a little sister.
Did you enjoy having a little brother, or was it a little bit hard?
Oh, it was a little bit hard. But there's just something about sisters that's that friends forever kind of thing that I always wanted. Yeah.
What's your favorite childhood road trip and why?
We didn't take road trips.
Oh, you didn't take road trips a lot.
Yeah, we didn't really do that kind of stuff.
Did you
as
ever
a family.
go to the lake?
Yeah, those are, I guess you could call 2 hours a road trip. My grandparents live 6 hours away, so a lot of times we'll drive 6 hours at a time.
That's a road trip.
That's a road trip. But nothing ever crazy's really happened. We just kind of go to visit grandparents and stuff like that. A lot of times I haven't been able to go on the road trips because something crazy happens, like my car completely breaks down. So, yeah, sometimes there's crazy stuff.
So you mentioned your grandparents. Did you have a good relationship with your grandparents?
I do have a good relationship with my I have one set of grandparents that are the silent generation, and then one set of grandparents that are the boomer generation. So even my grandparents are a whole generation apart. But the younger ones, the boomers, I have a good relationship with them, and they text me good luck with your tests and stuff, so it's fun.
What about the silent generation?
The silent generation, well, they're a little older, so it's harder to go and see them. And so they're not in as good health. They can't come see us. So I did live with those grandparents for a while.
You did?
So I did, yeah.
How was that?
I don't remember. I was like a toddler, so I don't really remember. But I remember their dog. I love their dog.
I don't remember them having a dog.
Yeah, she died before you were born.
Oh,
Belle.
Right. Oh, I remember y'all talking about
Mm-hmm.
her. Where are your parents from?
My parents are from a town called Lubbock, Texas. And their parents before them, and their parents before them, and their parents before them.
Do you know anything about Lubbock?
I do. It is the home of Texas Tech University.
Is that a big college?
It's a pretty big college. It's the second largest campus in America, which is pretty cool. Only the Air Force Academy is bigger. And there's a lot of cotton farmers there. It's a college town, but it's got a lot of older people, and it's got a good mix of ages and stuff like that. It's very flat. very dry. It's very hot. There's dust storms.
So you mentioned your grandparents live pretty far away. Do they live in Lubbock as well?
You just asked me if my grandparents, where they lived.
Okay. No, I asked you where your parents live.
Oh, yeah, my grandparents. Okay, you know what? That's fair. You caught me slipping, and that's on me. My grandparents do live in Lubbock, which is where my parents are from.
All right. What is the impact that your siblings have had on you?
My brother has taught me a lot of patience. A lot of patience. My sister has taught me a lot about what it means to be empathetic and be understanding and be compassionate and to treat other people the way that I treat other people the way that I want my sister to be treated.
Aww.
That's the most important thing to me. So that's what my sister has taught me, is a lot about how to care for people and make sure that they have an environment that's best suited for them, and not necessarily what makes me more comfortable, but what makes us more comfortable.
Thank you. Why or why not do you want kids?
Oh, thought the question was just going to end there. So that's a double-edged sword. I don't want kids because I don't know how the world is going to turn out. I don't know how climate change is going to affect things. I don't know if it's going to be a good environment for my kids to grow up in. I wouldn't want to just leave a bunch of problems for them to deal with, because that's not fair. Yeah. But I do want kids because I think I've learned a lot of lessons, and I think that I would be a good parent and raise good kids. Something that I've always thought is that you're not entitled to have children. It's a skill set. It's a skill set to parent. And I think I want to work hard on those skill sets to become a good parent. So I guess I'll know more and have a better decision as I get older. Definitely not anytime soon, but those are things to consider.
Why did you choose your profession, and how did your generation impact on that?
Super good question. I'm in dental hygiene school. I'm getting a bachelor's degree of science in dental hygiene, and I chose my career because it's a really great way to help people in underserved communities. It's a great way. It makes a lot of money, and you don't have to work, more than 4 days a week. And it's a great way to be involved in healthcare and to make a direct impact.
It's not working.
What you need, baby? Okay. And to make a direct impact on people's health. You get to see them twice a year, and you get to, it's a great position of science, and I love science and research, and I think that the field is endless in terms of science and research. And I think my generation has impacted dental hygiene because, well, just the fact that our generations are living longer really impacts dental hygiene. We place a lot of emphasis on it, on the way that our mouth looks and how the way that our face looks, how our mouth fits into the way that our face looks. We care a lot about our health because, we have access to that health care. Like, just having access to it affects the way that we see that. Like, it's not, I don't think a lot of millennials view healthcare as something that, or oral health care is something that can just be blown off. It's an important part of your health. You have to go to the dentist every 6 months to get your teeth cleaned. So I think our generation has definitely kind of said this is an important thing and we need it.
That's a great answer. So this is kind of off topic, but what's your dream vacation and why?
I want to go to Turkey. I want to go to Cappadocia. They have these really cool things called fairy castles, and they're natural stalagmites that are huge, and they've kind of like made them look like fairy castles. And there's a huge hot air balloon festival there. It's really mild temperature. I would just want to go watch some sunsets in Cappadocia.
That's awesome. What's the lesson you wished you had known before life?
Like before I was born, or like before I became an adult?
Before big struggles happened. So probably becoming an adult.
Okay, so before big struggles happened. I wish that I had known. Is that okay? You mean to? Okay. He did exactly what I said.
Facing towards you.
Okay.
You need to be in the shot.
Okay, there I am. for better or for worse. I wish I had known beforehand that, like, just because they're your parents and just because they're your friends and just because they're your teachers doesn't mean you have to believe what they say. That the research is out there and that you should do it yourself. And that there's always an answer. You don't have to, and even if you don't know the answer, it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'm learning. That was a hard lesson for me as an adult, was I don't know, but I'm learning. So now I kind of take a view that I should always be learning. And I think I'm fortunate to have learned that lesson at 22 instead of at 32 or 42. But I think if I had known that sooner, I probably would be in an even better place than I am now.
That's great. What was your relationship with you said you had a little brother. So what was your relationship with him growing up?
You just are asking some probing questions for your friends to hear about in class. My brother and I have an interesting relationship. We don't get along very easily, but we try really hard. We're very different personalities that kind of butt heads pretty easily. So, but I love him and I want good things for him, and I know he loves me and wants good things for me.
That's great. So, would you prefer living in my generation or yours? Why or why not?
That's a tough question. Your generation eats Tide Pods and mine is depressed.
Okay.
So it's kind of a tough, what do you pick? Your generation also hasn't gone through the recession the way that mine did. My generation came of age during the recession of 2008, and it impacted our economy the way that we only rent houses, we don't buy houses, stagnated jobs, overinflation. We, are a generation with a ruined economy because of that recession. And you haven't had that yet. So I think there's a lot of hope for Generation X. I think the oldest of y'all are like, 19? 18 and 19. The oldest Gen Xers are...
Or Gen Z.
LOL. Gen X is my parents. Gen X is not y'all. Gen Z is y'all. How often have I said Gen X?
Oh, just this once.
Okay, cool. Gen Z. Yeah, y'all haven't really had that yet. So I don't think... I have really high hopes for y'all in terms of, like, economic opportunities. I think that's really good. I think y'all are growing up in an age of tolerance, in an age of diversity and understanding that I really envy. I think you have access to things I didn't... Like, my first phone was a flip phone. Like, y'all have got a wealth of technology that's really, really cool and available to you.
We're recording this on an iPhone
We're
X.
recording this on an iPhone X. Like, that's freaking cool. My phone, it had buttons on it, and they made noises. And you could, like, program the sounds and stuff. It was a dope phone. But I also don't want to do middle school again. So I think I'm fine where I am. I never want to do middle school or high school again. So I think I'm fine as a millennial.
So you said you didn't want to do middle school again. What do you think, like, would you rather be in middle school at your time or be in middle school at our time?
I would rather be in middle school at your time because y'all don't wear culottes or blue eyeshadow. And that's awesome because I definitely wore culottes and blue eyeshadow.
That brings us to our next question. What was the most popular style or fashion, and would you wear it now?
When I was in middle school, again, I'm a later millennial.
Last year.
Last year?
No, you were born in the last year that you can be a millennial.
I was born in like at least the last 2 years.
No, it was the last year.
Okay, well, a generation varies for 5 years.
Okay, but we
So
studied this in ILA and I know it.
I appreciate that that's the ILA. Remember what I told you? Verify for yourself, sis.
Okay.
Verify for yourself, sis. So yeah, either I'm a really young millennial or I'm a really old Gen Z. I think that I'm more millennial because I align more with what millennials grew up with. What was the question? Fashion. Oh God, early 2003 fashion was awful. By the time I was in middle school, fashion was those little monkeys. It was like monkeys and bright colored shirts from Justice and like brown culottes and blue eyeshadow because Carrie Underwood told us to wear blue eyeshadow. And we had feathers in our hair. We like braided feathers into our hair. My mom never let me have them. And I was always so mad, but now I'm happy that she didn't.
So would you wear it now?
Absolutely not. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. If you ever want to see millennial fashion, just look up the 2003 or 2004 VMAs.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Okay.
They would wear dresses and then jeans underneath their dresses. That was millennial fashion. What's your next question?
That's awful. How did schooling change over time throughout your generation to mine?
Y'all have had technology the whole time that you've been growing up, and it may have gotten a little better as you go, but it's been roughly the same. Would you say?
Yeah.
It's been roughly the same. We went from like chalkboards. Okay, when I was in kindergarten, we had chalkboard, and we had a projector that it was like a rolling cart. We had rolling carts and rolling huge televisions and stuff like that. So we had older technology, and then right around 5th grade is when there was just this huge boom. There was like this, okay, we are in the future now, and we have all kinds of crazy technology, and it just kept getting more and more and more and more and more. So education changed as the technology changed, as the access to information was better, and we had much more available to us. Yeah, it was cool.
So do you think that our technology is still going to keep evolving and
Absolutely.
keep growing?
Absolutely. I don't think there's a cap on it at this point. I think there's a cap on what people will tolerate. I think that there's a lot of like smart devices that at some point people are going to say, this is too much of an invasion of my privacy, but I don't think the technology itself will have a cap. I think at some point people will say that's enough, but I think the technology will continue evolving for as long as we let it.
So I know in the past, there's like this big theory that in 2020 we're going to have flying cars. Do you think that with our technology growing, we might have flying cars like way in the future?
Let me tell you this. When I was your age, they said 2015 we would have flying cars. And my plan was to wait until they came out, and then someone would sell theirs and I would buy it used. So 2015 was almost 5 years ago. We don't have flying cars. We do have self-driving cars, which I didn't think would ever happen. So that's really cool. I don't think flying cars are practical. I think at some point it could happen, but we just call that a private airplane.
I mean, you're right.
Self-driving cars are cool enough.
Yeah. So, overall, which generation do you like better? And what have you learned from both of them?
I can't really say that I like a generation more than the other. I think a lot of times when we talk about things in generations, we often discount the people in those who are making changes. So a lot of times when we talk about older generations, we think closed-minded and not accepting of other people, but we forget that there were people in the older generations who fought for desegregation, who fought for everybody to have their rights, who fought for suffragette movements and stuff like that. So when we divide things into class by generation, we often discount those who were making huge strides. So I can't really say that I like your generation over my generation or mine over yours, because I think that discounts people who are doing incredible work in mine and in yours, like Greta Thunberg, an incredible example of what it means to be a Gen Z. And in the millennials, I guess everybody that you see on television. Hosier is my favorite of the activists of the millennials. I think he really cares a lot about women's rights and taking care of people who are impoverished. So I can't really give you an answer for that one. I can't say which one I like better. I'm just glad that we're working together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just glad we're working together.
So what's the main lesson that you've learned from both of them?
The biggest lesson that I've learned from millennials is that kind of the same lesson that I wish I had learned earlier would be to do the research for yourself and look things up for yourself and think for yourself and not just listen to everything that you hear, because we have access to a lot of information all the time and it can get overwhelming and it can really make us sad and hurt us. But we need to look it up. We need to verify those things and make sure that they're true before we dedicate our emotions to them. I'm a highly emotional person, so it was exhausting for me to have access to a 24-hour news cycle all the time. And from y'all, I've learned don't eat Tide Pods, and don't wear scrunchies on your wrist, because then people will call you a visco girl. I don't have scrunchies on my wrist.
I don't.
I don't have scrunchies on my wrist.
And also wearing a bathing suit, not a big t-shirt.
From the Gen Zs, I think I've learned that at some point people will get fed up with the way that the world is, and they're going to change it. And I think that's y'all. I think the millennials were too depressed to do anything to change the world, but I think y'all will.
So, this is the last question.
Okay.
What is the main thing that one generation can learn from the other?
Compassion. Compassion is the biggest thing one generation can learn from another. You can learn that it doesn't matter that we're separated by a generation. What matters is that we're all humans, and we share this earth and we share this space, and that we need to take care of each other. And that anyone who tells you that someone doesn't understand something because they're from a different generation is just trying to target you. We have to have compassion. Thanks. I'm smart. Take my resources. Heed my words. I'm so much older than you.
10 years. It's not much.
Do you have any more questions for me?
Nope, that was the last one.
Okay. You're a great interviewer. Thanks for bringing me on.
Thank you.
All right.
No problem.
Thunderous applause. Thunderous applause. Thunderous applause. All right.